Well, I guess I know Kathy at least has to be somewhere. So we can go ahead and get started. Do y'all, can someone tell me if there's any new folks, new members or potential members, or these folks who have been around involved in it for a long time? Is anyone, maybe a show of hands if you're new? Y'all recognize all the names on there?
I believe Glenda Freeman is new, aren't you, Glenda?
I am, and I was trying to find the little feed to raise my hand and to unmute. Yes, I am new to the group. And
well, excellent.
I'm Freeman. So
excellent. Well, welcome. We're glad you're here.
So much.
Well, yeah, Phil, we have a small enough group here, I think, that we can come off mute if folks need to say anything. And but we'll just go ahead with our plan then. And my name is Cindy Lowry, and I'm the Vice President of the League of Women Voters of Greater Birmingham. And that in that role, I am in charge of programs. So we did not have one in September, so we apologize for kind of not talking to you as much over the last month, but there were some elections in September, and we had planned on having a forum, and it didn't work out for that. The runoff candidates decided they didn't want to do that. So here we are in October, and time just keeps zooming by really fast. Can't believe it's almost Halloween, and this is our October program. So we know that it's really hard to, at least I know for me, I'm involved in a lot of different nonprofits, and it's hard sometimes, especially during this last couple of years with COVID, to really keep up with what's going on, because everybody's not as out and about and talking to each other in person as we used to be. And we're often in our homes in these little boxes. So we wanted to provide this opportunity tonight for folks to learn, keep up with, to hear about the current activities that we're working on at the Greater Birmingham League, as well as what the state is working on. But also, just if you're new to the league, we wanted you to kind of just get a good overview of all the different great facets of this organization and what we do and how you can get more engaged. So I copied a quote I'm going to read from the League of Women Voters, the US, the national one. We work at, I'm sure most of you know, work at all levels of government. We work at the national and the state and the local. And so I thought this was pretty cool on their website, when they have a really neat timeline about the history of the organization and women's suffrage. And this was sort of, what does the next 100 years hold? And it was, the League of Women Voters has evolved from a mighty political experiment designed to help 20 million newly enfranchised women vote in 1920 to what is today a unique nonpartisan organization that is a recognized force in molding political leaders, shaping public policy, and promoting informed citizen participation at all levels of government. So we're going to hear about all of that, and how we're doing that here in Alabama and in Birmingham tonight. And so I'm really excited to have Kathy Jones, the president of the League of Women Voters of Alabama. And we also have Leslie O'Neill with us, who's the treasurer of the League of Women Voters of Greater Birmingham. Leonette Slay, who's the past president of the League of Women Voters of Greater Birmingham. Dana Ellis, the current president of the League of Women Voters of Greater Birmingham, and Natalie Tidwell, who is the president of the League of Women Voters of Stanford University, which is a unit of the League of Women Voters of Greater Birmingham. So these are our speakers tonight that are going to give us this overview of everything we're working on here, and we'll have time at the end for y'all to ask questions. But feel free, if you have a question for the speaker that's talking, just to put something in the chat if you can, or just chime in, come off of mute and flag us down, and we'll answer questions as we can. So I'll turn it over to Kathy to start us off with the state and kind of give us an idea of how the state works with national and how all these different levels work, and what awesome work the state is focusing on right now.
Hey, thank you for having me here today to talk to you. And I wanted to, first of all, just if we could go back to the gallery view, I wanted to show you guys there's a lot of people on this call that are on the state board. And to me, that's the power of the league, is that even though we're broken up into three parts, which is the National League, the state league and the local leagues, the state league is supported by the people who are in the local leagues. And a lot of times you're going to find that the leadership at the local level is also providing leadership at the state level. And so I was just thinking, if I know Carol's on her camera's off, but I was going to say, if everybody can raise their hand that's on the state board, I see Jean and Ellen and Carol, and I thought I saw someone else, but so
Connie.
Jean is the vice president and Carol's the other vice president, and Ellen is on the board, the education fund, as a trustee. And Connie Arnwine, and she is our treasurer for the state board. So we've got a very strong presence here tonight from the state board as well. The League of Women Voters is known as it's a tri-federated organization. And I guess Leonette, you gave us orientation back in July, so you're going to have to help me if I say it not quite accurately, because I'm a new president since this summer. But it's a tri-federated organization. The National League handles things from a federal perspective, and they provide a position impact on positions that is worked up at the conventions. When they have conventions over the years, they've worked up a series of impact on issues, positions that will guide the state and the local leagues on things that we can take positions on ourselves. And then the state in turn has picked certain issues and looked at, and we have impact on issues. And so things flow from the federal level down to the local levels on positions, studies that have been done over the years. It helps us. It's been, those positions have been arrived at by consensus from the bottom up. And so this is part of how when we support something, or we say this is what we believe, it's based on a lot of research and a lot of experience. And so that's one of the things I wanted to share with you, that's the fundamental basis of what the league does. Currently, there are several issues that the National League is pursuing, and I wanted to share my screen to show you a couple of them, and then we can talk about some others that I don't have a slide on. But just right now, I guess it was yesterday, the Senate, if you are following the news at all, you're hearing about the battle to get the Freedom to Vote Act passed. And just yesterday, the Senate defeated the motion to bring this bill up for debate, 51-49. And it was explained to me that this was a procedural vote, and Chuck Schumer voted against it just so that he would have an opportunity to bring it up again, because they have to have 60 votes in order to start the debate on this. The league has been pushing very hard to get the Freedom to Vote Act and the John Lewis Voting Rights Act passed. There's even been protest at there. I've seen emails where various leadership at the national level is getting arrested and protesting in front of the White House, which brings you back to some of the things that happened back in before the passage of the 19th Amendment, because there's a feeling that this is the time and this is the place where the Voting Rights Act needs to be restored, and we also need to get the Freedom to Vote Act passed. That is at the federal level. We're being asked at the state level to also promote this, and so there's some plans that are we're trying to, while we're working redistricting, which is another topic. They're asking us to help get the word out about these two bills. And so a lot of times what you'll see is that at the National League level, they'll send down these pleas for calls to action for federal legislation. And then we will pass the word to our membership and ask folks to call their legislators, write their legislators, or do some other action. In addition, there's other activities that the National League has taken on, such as people-powered fair maps, which is redistricting. And we've been working on that now. We're in our third year of, they call it PPFM, people-powered fair maps. They've been doing a lot of preparation for when the census data came out and all these maps were being developed, so that we could push for the passage of the Freedom to Vote Act, and also trying to get fair maps in Alabama. That has become a very time-consuming activity right now. We had our forum last week where we brought together a lot of different groups working with them. And we have the person that's coordinating it is a local league member from the Tennessee Valley. And that's really helped us out because, the state league is so limited in our ability to, with the resources to pull something like this together. Having Pam Caruso be the person pulling that together has really made it possible for us to do it. And then working with these other groups, that's something that we've been working on for over a year now, to develop relationships so that we can have these types of forums. And so you're about to start getting some information about what we're doing for when the special session starts. And I wanted to share my screen to show you this. Hold on. I wanted to show you. This is the kind of thing, and Jean, you're the mastermind behind this, but there is so much information that we've been getting. A lot of it's been developed by people across the state. Catherine Davies has written several blogs on people-powered fair maps. That's the voices of our league. We've also got several. We've got a lot of information here, and I just wanted to share that with you because that's where the state league, I think, serves a valuable function for the local leagues by pulling all this together so that you've got a one-stop shop. So anyway, I was wanting to touch on just other things to talk about as far as other activities that the state is doing where the local league and the state league is working together are the advocacy team. And last year was our very first time that we all came together, and we had membership from the state league as well as the local leagues. And we watched, we basically monitored what was happening in the legislature, and we worked with other groups to see if we could push some bills forward, realizing that sometimes you're working a long game. You're not going to get success the first time you try something. And especially as a brand new advocacy team, a lot of what we were doing, as Barbara Cadell used to say, was building the plane while we're flying it. And that is felt like what we were doing. And I think we do that quite well. But so we're getting ready this year. We had a really good open records forum this summer, which kind of kickstarted the Open Records Act. We've got a group of folks that are local league members from around like Montgomery and up in the Tennessee Valley again. And we're looking for others to come together to come up with a strategic plan. It's going to be worked through the advocacy team, but to come up with a strategic plan for how are we going to help get this legislation for open records passed? Because it seems pretty obvious that unless there's some really big push, nothing is ever going to change. There's a lot of other topics that we're working in that same way with the advocacy team. And you're going to hear from Dana. We've also got a voting rights restoration network that we've established at the state level. We have a grant funding that's coming in from the Campaign Legal Center to pay for Alicourt. And we provided training to members across the state and the local leagues, so that when you go out for your voter services events, you're going to be able to do rights restoration services as well as getting them registered to vote. And that's a big plus. And also it gives some of our members who are not comfortable getting out right now with the pandemic we're doing voting rights restoration by text, which has been, a phenomenal success when we were all sitting at home wondering what we could do to make a difference. And the Campaign Legal Center is working with us, still working with us, saying that, Blair Bowie has told me several times that we are one of the best organized groups that she's worked with. So I think, that says a lot about the league, the fact that, we get together and plan a task and make it happen. And we also provide opportunities for our members to volunteer. There's right now, Jamaria Moore Johnson is our voter services chair, and we'll be we're working together right now to develop. We would like to figure out how in the coming year we can coordinate on developing materials and maybe some shared activities relating to get out the vote and voter registration. That's something that we haven't really developed that idea yet, but we'll be looking for ideas from the local leagues. And Carol Prickett is working membership development with the local league leaders. And so that is, I think, going to be very important when we start growing our league, building diversity, and also preparing our members so that they're ready to step into leadership positions and know what they're getting into when they become a leader in the league, and build excitement about what we're doing too. So that was all I had, and I think I talked longer than you had me set for.
No, that was great. It was absolutely the right amount of time. And it's just, I think it's important to note that these are all volunteers that are doing this work, and it's a lot of work that's going on, and it's really impactful work. And anyone who's involved in the league at whatever level, can be more involved in all of these projects, can also be involved, as Kathy mentioned, working up that leadership pipeline. I'm certainly newer to the league than a lot of folks on here. And so, and somehow I got on the board. So you don't have to have been here too long to get into a leadership role. You just have to be willing to put in to say yes and put in the commitment and the passion to the work. So thank you so much, Kathy. We're going to move to from the state to the local league level now and talk about Greater Birmingham. And I mentioned we have Dana, and I can't see Dana right now. Oh, there you are. I'm looking at the purple instead of your beautiful face. Dana is our president of the Greater Birmingham League of Women Voters, Greater Birmingham. And we have several other board members on the call and other members as well. But I thought maybe Dana could we were going to talk about history next, but Dana, I don't know if you want to, I was trying to see with the gallery what other board members, if you want to just have all the board members raise their hands, and then we'll pitch it to Leslie and Leonette to give us a little bit of the history of this.
That'd be great. Leslie O'Neill is here, and I don't myself see currently any other board members on. So yeah, we can go ahead with Leslie's part.
All right, so Leslie's our treasurer, and we've asked her to kind of share some about the history of the Birmingham League and Greater Birmingham League. And Leonette Slay is also here, who's also been involved for a really long time. So I might let y'all just tag team however you want to do that, to share where this particular local league has been. I know we're one of the stronger leagues in the state, so feel free to brag about us a little. And you're on mute right now, so come on.
Okay, let me just jump in and say that the Birmingham League is one of the older leagues in the state. We were formed in the 50s, and we have bragging rights because one of the leaders and organizers of the national suffrage movement came from Birmingham, and her name was Patty Ruffner Jacobs. And she was not only a mover and shaker here in Birmingham, but she became a national office holder, secretary of the National Women's Suffrage Association. So we have a real strong beginning here in Birmingham and have retained our large membership status throughout the decades. We've been blessed with a lot of good leaders in the past. We've also had a couple of members who left a legacy to Birmingham in the form of financial resources. So we don't go very far in our endeavors without thinking of those past members and their commitment and passion to the ongoing work of the League. I want to mention a national historical note before Leslie gets a chance to talk a little bit about Birmingham. Birmingham had been selected for a national presidential debate in 1988. And this was after 2 decades of the National League doing debates for the presidential elections. And we had put a bunch of work into that. And what happened was the League has stringent rules on how debates going to happen. And those 2 candidates would not agree to the League's nonpartisan, fair rules of engagement. And so therefore the League pulled out. And since 1988, the National League has not done any presidential debates. There is a commission doing that now, but that is a side note that Birmingham had been on the national map to do that before things sort of crashed down. So Leslie, what would you like to add from your years of being here in Birmingham?
Well, I looked back at a number of things, and one thing that I looked sort of from a program perspective and the kinds of advocacy that we have done through the years. First, I wanted to mention something that is actually at the state level, but in the 1970s, the League of Women Voters of Alabama worked with Judge Hal Heflin toward the adoption of the unified court system, at which we are now using. And this system became a model for reform in other states also, if you can imagine. Judge Heflin, or Senator Heflin, greatly appreciated the League's work on this and mentioned it fairly often. Leonette has already mentioned about Patty Ruffner Jacobs. Although she was active in the early 20s, we didn't have an actual league in Birmingham until 1929. That one did not last. There was another one sometime in the 30s that was a Jefferson County League of Women Voters, but it was 1952 when we finally established one here that has continued. At first, it was League of Women Voters of Birmingham, and then in 1973 and 1974, the local league did the studies necessary of the surrounding area to become the League of Women Voters of Greater Birmingham. When a league begins, it needs to study its local government. So they had to expand beyond Birmingham when they became the League of Women Voters of Greater Birmingham. We've been acting on our positions throughout the years. We have positions on urban government, transportation, education, administration of justice, and many areas of natural resources, all of these that involve our Greater Birmingham area. I wanted to go over the history of some of them. One of them that was kind of interesting was shortly after I came here. I came in 1978, and I think this study must have been done in 1979. But we had a consensus on the transportation of nuclear waste through Jefferson County. At that time, when you went from Atlanta to Birmingham on I-20 and made that turn onto 59 and the continuation of 20, it was almost like a hairpin turn. And semi-trucks were constantly turning over there. And we all were in horror of them moving nuclear waste from Savannah or wherever it was going to come through there. So we did a local study, but of course, national and state studies or state positions override most of what's going on there. But we did come up with some emphasis that we needed. One was to emphasize public awareness that these trucks were coming through, although I don't know that I ever heard one was. And they probably kept it secret, but make people aware that they needed to drive carefully in that area and be very careful. And this was before 459 was built. So that was the only way to get through Birmingham on the interstate. We also emphasized the need for the local emergency responders to have proper equipment for any kind of emergency that might occur. And in the absence of adequate regulation at state and federal level, that the county should be able to make some kind of regulations. That didn't ever really go anywhere, but that was something that the local league got really excited about. And we came up with this. And then, of course, I think they've done 2 different improvements to that intersection. I haven't been there lately. Is it better now, or is it still a mess? I don't know if anybody ever tried.
I don't know what it was. I don't know what it was like. I actually get on the interstate there sometimes more so than go that direction, but it doesn't seem terrible to me. So
Okay, so they fixed it, but I can remember trucks of chickens tipping over there and chickens all over the place. And other time there was something else that was more slimy, I think, but there were a number of accidents there and we were all very concerned. I want to now talk about the county government position we have. When the league formed, they did a Know Your County study, and that was updated in 1986, right after there was a consent decree that affected the Jefferson County Commission. Before that time, there were 3 commissioners who were elected statewide. And the one man, one vote emphasis came in, and there was a consent decree that said we had to have 5 districts and someone represented each district. So we did various advocacy at the time. After we had done our study, we concluded that we really needed a county manager or a county executive so that there would be one person who had overall responsibility. It didn't do any good at that time, but we did try. And after the Jefferson County had the financial crisis that was created by the sewer construction that was exorbitantly expensive and was halted midway, and the fact that the legislature took away the half-cent occupational tax that Jefferson County had. After that, we went together with a number of other organizations and backed a bill that Paul DeMarco of Homewood had put in the legislature that required Jefferson County to hire a county executive manager. This was in 2009. The bill did pass, and since then, Jefferson County has had a county manager. And I think things must be working better because we don't get the constant news of all of the disasters that we had before, but maybe Jean has a better view of that. Interestingly, we have a new county manager as of October 1st, and I should have written his name down. Somebody Martin, I believe it is. He was in the Brian Martin, I think it is. But the consent decree that started back in '85 was, I don't know whether it grandfathered out or what, but we are no longer under that consent decree. So if we think there's a better way to organize our Jefferson County government, I guess there's a possibility of pushing for it, although it's always a long push when it has to go through the legislature. One other thing I wanted to talk about that gives a little bit of idea of how things have been through the years. When I came here, the only way you could register to vote was to go to the voter registration office or to go somewhere where someone was having a special voter registration drive. And other than the League of Women Voters, I don't know if anyone else did those drives. But in the early 80s, the Nell Hunter started putting registration forms in public libraries. That was gradually expanded. Our local league did a review in 1986 of the national position on postcard registration. And after that, you know, we're more informed about what we should try to get different agencies to do, or the Secretary of State or whatnot. The number of places that you could get voter registration forms expanded greatly with the Motor Voter Act. Of course, they were in the driver's licensing offices, Department of Human Resources, the WIC program, Department of Public Health, Medicaid, Department of Rehabilitation Services, public four-year universities, some private four-year universities. All of these are where they are available now. And of course, you can also go online. I looked to see when that became available, and I'm really not sure. Then we came across the problem of the push for voter ID, which of course we went out and advocated against, and it did no good. But that voter ID law went into effect in 2014. So, and we're further trying to expand access to voting, and Dana will talk further, I'm sure, about the voting rights restoration. But this gives you a little idea of some of the things that we've looked at through the years. Any questions?
Anyone have questions for Leslie? It's really great to hear some of that history. I didn't even know about a lot of that. So it's I think a couple of points to punctuate there is that, you know, the league definitely gets involved when it matters, when there's issues that represent our positions and our values, and makes a difference. And, you know, it's all volunteers and people, you know, people just putting their time in because they care. And even though we don't always win on the things that we're advocating, I think it's important to, you know, to show others that we're standing up with them and standing up for these things, and that we're going to be there when we're needed. So I think those were some really great points of our history. And thank you, Leonette, for the even further back history that you started with. If there aren't any questions, Jean, did you come off mute? Were you going to say something?
No, I'm fine. I'm just thrilled to get the recap of our history from Leonette and Leslie. We have a proud heritage, and it all depends on our members. It goes nowhere unless our membership is involved and pushes forward with our values and our positions and our voter service activities. So we appreciate all of you.
Absolutely. And that was the other thing I wanted to punctuate that you made me remember, because my mind went blank a minute ago. The league never takes a position, as you've noticed from Kathy and Leslie and other speakers, without studying it. And it's backed up by evidence and science. And I think the nonpartisan thing can never be said too much. It's not about a particular political party or anything like that. It's backed up by data and science and evidence, and so and studies before a position is taken. So it's I think that's really important. And I've been really impressed with that aspect of the league since I've been involved. Okay, now we're going to talk to Dana about what the Greater Birmingham folks, what we're all working on right now. There's some really exciting things going on that we want you, our members, to be involved in. There's plenty of work to be done. There's plenty of volunteer opportunities. So, and some really exciting, rewarding things that we're involved in. So Dana, take it away.
Thank you, Cindy, and thank you to everybody who's already talked. It's hard to follow such a distinguished crew. I became the president of the Greater Birmingham League of Women Voters in May after joining the league only a few years before. I was drawn to the league by the voter services activity and was trained in that by people who had done it for quite a while. In the few months that since I became president, Cindy did an excellent program in August. I hope most of you were on that call. I hope so, but we viewed a movie called Line in the Sand about redistricting and had a great panel discussion in conjunction with that. Kathy touched on redistricting, but it's so critical because every 10 years, lines are redrawn. And so if whatever mistakes are made in redrawing district lines this time, we will live with for the next 10 years. There is the Jefferson County Commission has a meeting on November 4th at 9 a.m. to go over their proposed maps. And if any, I'm going to put my email address in the chat in a little bit. If anybody is interested in attending that meeting to learn more, please let me know. We do have one of our board members who's planning to go, but the more our officials realize that people are watching this process, the better the outcomes should be. The other things that we've done, for the Birmingham municipal election, Judy Jones, one of our board members, took the responsibility for doing Vote 411. If you are not familiar with Vote 411, it's a website where people can go, and in addition, they can register on that site if they want, but in addition, they can look at upcoming elections and see how their candidates respond to a series of questions. So all candidates are asked the same questions. They submit their answers. We don't edit it. It's just loaded to the site. So it's a place where people can get information. In 2022, huge number of elections. I mean, every statewide office will be up for re-election. So we really need a team of people who can help with that effort. There's a lot of communication with the candidates that has to happen to make this a successful thing. So think about that if that is an area that you would be interested in participating. Jan Colson and Julie Reese head up our voter services area, and they had on National Voter Registration Day, they were at 4 America's Thrift Stores. At the Women's March that was a few weeks ago, the league had a table. At that table, of course, we talked about voting. We also talked about redistricting, and it was a good turnout at the table. The table was busy the whole time we were there. So if you are interested in those kind of events, again, I'm going to put my email address in the chat box and I can connect you with the appropriate board member who's working on that. It's critical that all of us call our senators about the Freedom to Vote Act. I know sometimes it feels like that we're not going to necessarily be heard, but it is critical that both Senator Shelby and Senator Tuberville hear from us in their offices that you support the vote for the Freedom to Vote Act. I don't know when it will come back up. It may have to pass. They may have to do something with the filibuster to make it pass, but this will open up early voting days. Think about it in Alabama. We can vote on Tuesday, or we can do an absentee vote, and that is all. Most states have some number of early voting days, and our voter turnout would be so much better if this act passes. Kathy also mentioned the voting rights restoration. I'm proud to say that, you know, people throughout the state have been trained in this process, and we've been texting throughout the pandemic. We have several folks in the Birmingham area who are trained to do this work. Connie Arnwine is on the call. She could raise her hand. But we have 5 or 6 people who are trained in Birmingham to do this work. And since July, we've been at the field offices of the Bureau of Pardons and Paroles in Birmingham, and we've done 1 month so far in Bessemer. We returned to Bessemer in just a few weeks. And this has been particularly gratifying, because even though Alabama passed a law in 2017 making the impact on voting rights of a previous felony conviction, making it much more clear, there was very little education done about this. So in our efforts so far at the field offices, we have registered approximately 100 people, all of whom thought, until they interacted with us, that the fact that they had a previous conviction meant they could never vote again. And it's just not true. We need help in that in-person effort. I will tell you, I feel safe there. Masks are required. There's a lot of good COVID protocols at both field offices. And if anyone is interested, again, when I put my email address in, let us know. You don't have to be trained in VRR to be able to help in this effort, because we will train you in the basics of it when you come to the field office, and then also you can help people register. Our advocacy team, the board member who's responsible for that is June Fletcher. So as the advocacy efforts ramp up, when the legislature comes, look for information about that. Another thing that I would love to see us be able to do in Birmingham that right now we're not doing much of is what's called the Observer Corps, where people attend public meetings and write back a report about those. So right now, a lot of public meetings are being held on Zoom. But if you have an interest, if there's a particular public agency that you follow their work, please let us know, because it would be a great help to hear from people who attend meetings virtually or in person, what happened in that meeting, so we can keep our membership informed. So redistricting, voter rights restoration. We've been invited to speak at Miles College for an extra credit event. The YWCA is doing a series on advocacy, and they've invited us in Greater Birmingham Ministries to come and discuss the voter rights restoration process and how their students can help advocate for that. I believe, looking at my notes, that's all I had, but I'm certainly willing to take any questions. Oh, I did want to thank publicly even though they're not all on the call, Connie Arnwine, Becky Laurent, Julie Reese, and Yvonne Knowles and myself are the league members right now who are doing the work at the field offices. Join us. We'd love to have you. Thank you, Cindy.
Dana, tell them about the radio show real quick. I thought that was fun.
Oh, okay. A side effect of being at the field office is that a young man who now is registered to vote, who thought he could not vote, has a hip hop radio station. And I've already been a guest on it once, and we're doing it again November 7th. He's set a personal mission to register 5,000 people between now and the November elections, and wants the League of Women Voters, as well as other folks who are doing voting rights restoration work, to be frequent guests on his show to get the word out. And that's been a lot of fun. This 68-year-old lady being on a hip hop radio show, the first time was it was something new for me to learn, but we'll be doing more of those in the coming months.
That's awesome. Thank you. Does anybody have any questions about any of those particular programs that we're working on that you want to know a little more about? again, I think Dana's going to put her email in the chat so that you can reach out to her if you want to be involved. And feel free to come off mute if you have a question. I think we're a small enough group, you can do that. No
It's a
questions?
pleasure working with everybody, and we can do even more. Every speaker has talked about the need for our volunteers, and we can do even more. I'm proud of the work we're doing, but we can do even more as people get more involved.
So we talked about the past and we talked about present, and now we're going to kind of talk about the future, at least what I see as promising future with the unit at Stanford University. So Natalie, we'd love for you to share with us what the league is doing at Stanford and how y'all are getting started and what your hopes and dreams are for this.
Oh boy, okay, that's a lot. So my name is Natalie Tidwell. Like Cindy said earlier, I'm the president of the League of Women Voters, Stanford University. We are a unit within Greater Birmingham. All of our current members are individual members of Greater Birmingham. So we're our own thing, but we're not really our own thing. And it's interesting, and it's been a fun experience for everybody involved to figure out exactly what the ordering for that has been. But I think we're really grateful to have the oversight of a storied and experienced group like this, rather than trying to start something new. So we appreciate the support of Greater Birmingham. I was approached by Dr. Ellen Buckner, who's on this call, I believe. I saw her a while ago. As an attendee. She approached me. I was a student of hers 2 years ago first. And we've kind of kept a working relationship going. And she approached me this past spring and said that this was something that she was a part of, and she was interested in getting a group started on campus. And that some of the personal interests and academic interests of mine made me somebody that she thought she needed to get involved, which I was very flattered for. And so we pulled a bunch of students together. There's another student who is treasurer, whose name is Jada Hunter, who can't be here tonight because she has an SGA commitment, who's also in leadership with me. And so we kind of tried to find students on campus, collected a bunch of people who we thought would be interested, or who confirmed that they were interested in the group. And so right now we're kind of in the middle of the process on Stanford's campus to get a student organization instated. We're not completely approved to be on campus. There are some boxes to check and hoops to jump through, but we did spend spring semester as a group drafting our constitution to submit for approval. We spent it joining, like I said, as individual members, the Greater Birmingham group. And so I thought that I would read, to kind of give everybody a flavor of the group, I thought I would read the 5 sections that state our purpose from our constitution. So the purpose of the organization shall be to promote political responsibility through informed and active participation in government, and to act on selected governmental issues, to educate the Stanford community on the importance of voting in current events and issues, to advocate for all issues related to voting and equal access to voting, to aid the Stanford community in registering to vote, accessing sample ballots, deciding in what manner to vote, examples given, absentee travel or registering at a different address, etc., and in any aspect of voting with which the community needs help. And then section 5 is just the little spice of: the league shall not support or oppose any political party or any candidate. So that's really the angle that we're going for on campus. Obviously, we're a little bit more focused than any of the umbrella leagues as far as what we want to try to tackle. But I think it's very fitting that we've been talking about, like somebody else mentioned, the common thread of the efforts that are being done, but how there's always more to be done to get people registered, to educate them about their rights, and the things that they have, the resources they have access to. So that's really the goal here. I think that we're all really excited to have things like voter registration drives on campus. We're really excited to go through trainings and be able to be educated advocates and kind of how do I say that? We have our peers, and we're active on campus, and we're students, and we're friends with people on campus, and so it can kind of be a social thing, but also through the league we become educated on these topics and these subjects that we wouldn't otherwise have access to, and in that way we can kind of be an easy resource for people who are our peers to learn more about this, whereas they may not otherwise know to whom to go. That's kind of I guess that's my thing this year. I'm also an ambassador for Howard College, so I'm just kind of doing that thing of getting people in contact with the people they need to know to be able to do what they want to do. And if they want to register to vote, we want to be able to help them do that as far as League of Women Voters is concerned. So I'm kind of, it's been a weird shuffle trying to figure out what the timeline is for getting the group permanently instated on campus. So I wish I had more to say on that front, but things are moving. And we're eager to start recruiting for new membership on campus. And I think that this is a very pertinent issue. And I think that the League of Women Voters brings a lot to the table in being able to approach it very practically. Like Cindy mentioned earlier, everything that the league does is researched, is factually based, it's backed up, it's defendable, it's solid. And I don't think we can get enough of that right now in the current political climate. I think I'm honored to be involved in a group that is so practical and fact-based and looking to do good in a nonpartisan way and in a way that's very facilitatory, if that's a word. Looking to get people to the resources that they need so that they can use their voice as we're hypothetically legally guaranteed. I think that's a really beautiful thing, and I'm excited to be a part of it. I think my classmates are excited to be a part of it. And we're grateful that you're willing to host our unit as a group. So yeah, happy to be here. I think that's all I have to say. I mean, I'm happy to, if anybody has any questions for what's going on here. I know that I've kind of picked up that this is kind of new. As far as the League of Women Voters is concerned, I think Dr. Buckner has communicated a few different times that there's not really an example for how to do this on a college campus. So we're really honored to be figuring that out, potentially putting together resources for other students, my peers on other campuses that want to put groups together and do kind of the same thing that we're trying to do. So this is it's a cool time to be here with the League of Women Voters of Greater Birmingham.
Yay, we're so excited that you are doing this and that you're becoming a part of us. I think sometimes every group that's been around for a while, and this one's been around for a long time, can get stereotyped in ways and maybe even stuck in ruts sometimes. So bringing in all the new voices and diverse voices is so important. And your voting block is extremely important in the nation, but also really particularly in Alabama. I was just talking to someone recently about numbers and voting, and the 18 to 30-year-olds are a real important part of that picture and how we make the changes we need to see in Alabama. So thank you for that. Does anyone have questions for Natalie? Leslie?
Oh, I don't have one for Natalie, but I wanted to mention something. Does anyone else have a question for her?
I see a question in the chat.
Oh, I'm sorry.
About how many members we have. So in order to begin the process for applying to be a group on campus, we needed, I want to say it was 10 inaugural members that they're called. And so we have those. And I think because of the nature of the groups that Jada and I are a part of, as of right now, we only have people who identify as female in the group. However, another part of the Constitution that I didn't read aloud makes it very clear that we're open to anybody of any status as a group. And we'll be able to really, there's some events that we can host on campus that we haven't gotten an opportunity to do yet for recruitment efforts, where we can make that clear to people that it's not, we're not exclusive in any way, we're open to everybody. So we're really excited to recruit to anybody who will stop by. So, but yes, we don't have, technically at this moment, we don't have any male members, but we're looking to change that.
And that's a great segue into membership. And I don't know if Leslie, if that's what you're going to talk about, but we
Well,
did talk about you talking about that.
Yeah, that is. I did just want to mention before we got away from it that I noticed that Judith's hand is on the call. And Judith came to the Birmingham League 9 years before I did. So she is a real old hand at that. And I thought she might want to make a comment or so. Is she still on?
Yes, I'm trying to, okay, I'm unmuted. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I am a 50-year member of the League of Women Voters. In fact, 52, a 54-year member. I joined the League of Women Voters in 1967. So yes, I am an old hand. I came to the League of Women Voters through academia. I did a thesis at Chapel Hill, UNC, on the Overseas Education Fund of the League of Women Voters, which at that time, it no longer exists, but it was merged into the League of Women Voters Education Fund, which does still exist. And at that time, the Overseas Education Fund was seeking to find and was very good at providing resources for women in Central and South America to begin to find a political voice and to begin to be able to act in their own behalf. Development was primary. So that was my introduction to the League of Women Voters. And then I joined when we moved to California, and then when we moved to Alabama. It seems like forever ago, but I was present from 75 to 77. And this is just a funny anecdote. It's total trivia. But I went to the National Convention in 1975 in San Francisco. And we had a march for the ERA, which most people don't even remember the ERA. But we had a march, and we had a large number of women at the convention, probably over 500. And we had our placards and so forth. And as we were marching down the main, one of the main streets in San Francisco, a man jumped in front of me, and with spit from his mouth, from being as agitated as he was, he yelled at me, "Communist!" And it was shortly after that, maybe 1 or 2 minutes, that the police stopped our march and we were no longer able to march. But it has stuck in my mind that there are a lot of people who want to accuse us of a lot of things, but what we stick to, what we champion above all else, is being well-informed, being nonpartisan, providing education for citizenry. And we need that so desperately forever in our world today. So I've enjoyed the time that I've spent in the League, and primarily a lot of the work that I've done was voter service. voter education. And I'm still there and I'm still available. So thank you for the opportunity to speak.
Thank you. Thank you for being here and for sharing with us and for being involved for so long. It's a real testament to this organization and to you. So thank you. All right. Well, so
Cindy, may I add one comment to Natalie's presentation?
absolutely.
So I'm the advisor for this group, and I just wanted you to know that we have a phenomenal group of about 12 young women who are on fire. And that is very exciting to me. Second point is that Natalie and Jada have truly led this development with the Constitution, et cetera, and filed for a status with the university to be an official club. I also want to give a tip of the hat to Carol Prickett, who's on this call, because she formed a club at Tuscaloosa at the University of Alabama. She gave me some pointers on how to do that. And another person I'd like to note is Jamaria Moore. She's looking at how we can develop it at Miles. So we have a group of people looking. We know there's a group at Auburn, but they're not an official Auburn club, if you will, but there's a process. And Natalie has been chief among our group to respond when we were asked questions by the student affairs and the vice president. And so that, again, we're holding hoping for our provisional status before the end of this semester. But it has truly been a process, and she has managed that. She has managed to lead our group very, very effectively. The last thing is I want to thank Dana and the Greater Birmingham group for all their support, including forming an advisory committee to give us that kind of support, which includes, I can't even name everybody, but that's the kind of structure that really makes this sustainable and expandable. And so, we are hoping that once we get through the process, we can learn a little bit more about how that happens and can be the encouragers, as Carol was for me, moving forward. But we're very excited about it. Thank you for all your support.
Thank you. Thank you for being a catalyst for that at Sanford and for the other schools. That's very exciting. All right, well, so that's all of our official speakers, but Leslie was gonna, before we open up the floor and let others talk if you want, or questions, Leslie was gonna mention about membership, and I think, Jean, if you would share that slide about all the different ways to connect to the various levels of the league. And Leslie, if you just wanna, I know maybe most people on this call are already members, but if you just want a refresher about how to get your friends to join or anyone you meet, please tell us about that, Leslie.
Well, I think everyone is a member, but those who are members in Birmingham, it's time to renew. And we are rather late, or I am rather late getting out notices. There will be something coming out early next week, but dues are due. We did change at our annual meeting from the system we had before to using annual dues. Means that anyone who joined before July 1st, 2020 has a annual dues date of September 1st, and your dues need to be paid by November 30th, or we can't keep you on our list. And we can keep all of you on the list. Dues, send them in when you can. And I will be sending something around so that you can connect to the web page or send me a check in the mail.
And these, and so your dues go to pay for all this great work that you're hearing about. And it does take some finances, even though we're all volunteers. And we support the state work as well through your local dues. So we really encourage everyone to renew and to tell your friends to join. And these are all the different, in this day and age of technology and COVID particularly, but even, outside of COVID, the best way and the cheapest way to get information to the broad masses is through the internet, through social media and websites. So these are the different ways that you can connect with us in Greater Birmingham, as well as the state and national leagues online. Now, does anyone else want to speak? Does anyone who's been involved for a while want to speak, or anyone who's new have questions? This is sort of the, before we close out, this is the open floor time. Feel free to come off mute or put something in the chat.
Cindy, this is Carol Prickett, and I'm here as part of a membership development initiative from the state board. So I'm just listening in tonight, but I want to celebrate what Greater Birmingham does and their leadership and their energy, which sets a standard. We have a number of leagues, local leagues in the state who have difficulty finding enough people to do things and to initiate many things. And the support and gracious contributions that I know, since we've been having local league leader meetings once a month, Leonette and Dana have been so gracious in helping some of the smaller leagues understand and see ways they could reach out and change some things. So I thank you all for your leadership and for your energy, and congratulate you on all you're accomplishing, because we're all looking to you all to be our state leaders, as Birmingham often is. And I say this with all my love of Tuscaloosa, but I am a native of Birmingham, so I will admit that.
Thank you. Thank you, Carol. Anyone else?
I just want to add that, again, most people on the call may be aware of this, but in case you're not, Jean posted where to pay your dues. But if you go, also, if you go to lwvgb.org, we have a dues assistance program. So if anyone has any difficulty paying the $55 annual dues, there is a way to apply for dues assistance. The students only pay $15, and that's what someone who needs that help would also pay. So if you know anybody that's thinking about the league but isn't sure, then let's make sure they're aware that we do have a dues assistance program.
Yes, thank you for reminding us of that, Dana. That's important. These times are not easy for
That's
lots
right.
of folks. All right. Well, if there aren't any questions, I want to thank everyone who spoke tonight and shared their experiences and work with us, and for all of you who joined us. And we hope that if you're not already engaged in some of these projects, that you'll reach out to us and let us know. And we're all learning together. So if you don't feel like you have to know a whole lot yet, it takes just jumping in and getting your feet wet, and folks that have talked tonight can certainly teach, help educate on how to do the work. That's what I'm learning every day from these guys, so these gals. And you can be, males can be members, in case y'all don't know that. I think somebody mentioned that already. You don't have to, we're not an exclusive female, even though we are predominantly female, because females rock. Men can be members too.
Well, you might want to mention, I know you put it in the chat, but in case anybody missed that, what you were planning for November's meeting.
Oh yeah, so our next program, hopefully November, we don't have a date yet. I'm debating about before or after Thanksgiving, because Thanksgiving's that weird early week this year. So, but we're hoping to do it on the Open Records Act. And Kathy mentioned the work that's been going on for a little while to open up the transparency of our government in Alabama. The open records laws are pretty closed here. It's really hard for the public to get access to information that's needed. And our Supreme Court in Alabama just ruled a really detrimental ruling on criminal justice and what police have to do in order, or don't have to do, and when it comes to releasing public information. So we're going to have some experts talk to us about that, and we'll talk about what the league is doing, hopefully, and that'll come up again in the next legislative session, as it has in the most recent ones. So so stay tuned on social media and on your email, and we will make sure you know about that, and hopefully we'll get that date set so we can advertise it as soon as possible. All right. Well, thanks so much, everyone, for joining us. And y'all have a
Thanks,
great evening.
everybody.